There seems to be apparent large full-scale war in the Middle East with imminent more larger deadly combats as President Donald Trump of the United States, U.S., who pride himself as a messiah of peace, who have returned to the White House to end wars in Asian, European countries, spends less than 9 weeks in office, with Israel military, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, confirming few minutes ago that the State of Israel intercepted rocket missiles in the northern Israel town of Metula launched on Saturday morning from Lebanon, who have had and maintained ceasefire agreement with Israel since November 2024 after Israel launched massive killing mission in Lebanon, air bombarding the capital city, Beirut, until several Hezbollah members and leaders were killed. This is addition to the resumed large full-scale war in the Palestinian city of Gaza, where reports indicated that Israel have killed not less than 600 persons, including women and children, in the last few days when the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas before January 20, 2025, when Donald Trump was sworn in second time as U.S. president, was violated. According to the IDF, following the rocket fire from Lebanon this morning, the Chief of the General Staff, Lieutenant General Al Zamir, conducted a situational assessment. The IDF will respond severely to the morning's attack. The state of Lebanon bears responsibility for upholding the agreement. The IDF stated this on its verified X social media handle. Previously, the IDF issued statements that the state of Israel has been under severe air attacks from different front lines around the different corners of Israel simultaneously in recent days, as President Donald Trump ordered U.S. military to strike Yemeni Houthis, a rebel group operating in Yemen, who had vowed to continue to retaliate the U.S. attacks. A missile launched from Yemen was intercepted by the IAF prior to crossing inter-Israeli territory. These sirens were triggered because 2 projectiles were launched from northern Gaza. Where were the projectiles fired from? A launcher located near a humanitarian area in Al-Furqan. This is further evidence of Hamas' systematic exploitation of civilians and civilian structures for terrorist activities throughout Gaza. Eliminated. Head of Hamas military intelligence in southern Gaza and head of Hamas surveillance and targeting unit, Osama Tabish. Tabish held various senior positions in Hamas, including a battalion commander in the Khan Yunis brigade. Tabish was also responsible for formulating Hamas combat strategy on the ground, including coordinating the intelligence of Hamas military wing in southern Gaza and leading their activities in the area. In an additional strike, the IDF and ISA eliminated Ismail Abd al-Al, a central terrorist in Islamic Jihad's weapons smuggling unit. In his role, he led most of Islamic Jihad's weapons smuggling operations in recent years. The weapons smuggling unit is responsible for the transportation, storage and smuggling of military equipment and weaponry into Gaza, IDF stated in a series of posts published in less than 72 hours ago. Local media reported that the Israel Defense Minister, Israel Katz, says he instructed the IDF to respond to the rocket attack. Justice James Omotosho, the new judge that took over the case of the detained Biafra agitation leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has accepted the apology tendered by Nnamdi Kanu through one of his lawyers, Barrister Kanu Agabi, a Cross-River State-born former senator in the Nigeria National Assembly and 2-time Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice under the then-President Olusegun Obasanjo, over the detained Biafra leader's outburst or manner he protested sequel to his rejection of the former judge, Justice Binta Nyako, when the case started afresh on Friday with the new judge, which Nnamdi Kanu pleaded not guilty to the 7 counts terrorism charges filed against him by the federal government. There was a chaotic situation within the court environment when men of the Nigeria Secret Police, Department of State Services, DSS, allegedly prevented TVC News reporters from taking video footage at the court. After pleading not guilty to the 7-count charges of terrorism, the case was adjourned to April 29, May 2 and 6, 2025 for accelerated hearing. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was represented by his lawyers, namely, Kanu Agabi, San, Uche Njoku, San, Aloy Ejimako, Esquire, and Maxwell Opara, Esquire. The case involving Nnamdi Kanu has dragged up to 10 years since he was first arrested in 2015 when he arrived in Nigeria from London. It was gathered that many people, including relatives of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, were barred from entering the courtroom by operatives of the DSS. Some journalists were also restricted from covering the court proceedings. We had reported that the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has not been released by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN Justice Kadirat Kekere-Ekun, Nigeria National Judicial Council, NJC says in reaction to viral rumors that the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB leader, has been set free by the CJN on the ground that Nigeria courts under her leadership have no jurisdiction over the freedom fighter's case due to the way and manner he was forcefully extradited from Kenya to Nigeria in 2021. We had reported that the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, on Valentine's Day sent a message to the lovers, supporters of the Biafra Republic agitation and the general public that he would remain in detention until impartial and unbiased judge take over the case of alleged terrorism filed against him by the federal government of Nigeria, narrating how the judiciary has been biased against him since years of his detention. We had reported that Justice Binta Nyako of Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned indefinitely after the detained leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, was seen in a privileged video footage during February 10, 2025 court session, staged a resistance protest, insisting while confronting the judge face to face, including the prosecuting counsel, Adigboyegba Awomolo, that Justice Binta, who is an indigene of Katsina State, same state with former President Muhammadu Buhari, is biased, saying, Justice Nyako, who had held the political position of Katsina State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, that her court is not a court of law but a shrine of injustice. Detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has not been released by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN Justice Kadirat Kekere-Ekun, Nigeria National Judicial Council, NJC says in reaction to viral rumors that the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB leader, has been set free by the CJN on the ground that Nigeria courts under her leadership have no jurisdiction over the freedom fighter's case due to the way and manner he was forcefully extradited from Kenya to Nigeria in 2021. The National Judicial Council debunked the rumored reports that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has been released and repatriated back to Kenya. NJC, in a statement signed by its Deputy Director of Information, Kemi Ogudengbe, on Thursday in Abuja, emphasized that the purported report is a fabrication and a figment of the writer's imagination. The council clarified that while the release is attributed to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kadirat Kekere-Ekun, there is no court decision from her to substantiate the claim. Kanu is currently facing a 7-count terrorism charge brought against him by the federal government. He was first arrested on October 14, 2015, following his return to Nigeria from the UK. He was later granted bail in 2017 on health grounds after being detained at the Kuje Correctional Facility. Kanu left Nigeria and returned to the United Kingdom following allegations of threat to life when men of the Nigerian army allegedly invaded his home in Abia State. He was re-arrested in Kenya in 2021 and extradited to Nigeria, where he has remained in the custody of the Department of State Services till date. Kanu's trial, which was briefly stalled due to his demand for a change in his trial judge, is set to continue on Friday, March 21st, before Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja. The council added that the CJN never wrote any formal letter to the Kenyan government or High Commission apologizing for the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu or his trial. It urged members of the public to disregard the fake story. We had reported that the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, on Valentine's Day sent a message to the lovers, supporters of the Biafra Republic agitation and the general public, that he would remain in detention until impartial and unbiased judge take over the case of alleged terrorism filed against him by the federal government of Nigeria, narrating how the judiciary has been biased against him since years of his detention. We had reported that Justice Binta Nyako of Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned indefinitely after the detained leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu is seen in a privileged video footage during February 10, 2025 court session, staged a resistance protest, insisting while confronting the judge face-to-face including the prosecuting counsel, Adigboyegbara Womolo the Justice Binta who is an indigene of Katsina State, same state with former President Muhammadu Buhari is biased, saying, Justice Nyako who had held a political position of Katsina State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice that her court is not a court of law but a shrine of injustice.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.